don't even know where the camera is.
It's right there.
Indeed.
Well, all right. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Jamey. I'm here with Mike and Grant, and we are Three Guys, One Music. How you doing, guys?
Very well. Very
Howdy.
well.
Good to see you guys.
Howdy ho.
Oh, I love that. Yeah. All right. This week, we're going to talk about our first concert experiences. We thought this would be, we all have our, it's always fun to kind of revisit these things, I think, but just kind of how we remember things and as a young person. And we'll try to be as specific as we possibly can about what we recall. But we'll talk about what we've been listening to first. I will go first. And I've been listening to Mr. Jack Johnson recently. Total chill music. Really been
having some banana pancakes.
Yeah, I have been listening to that actually. We listened to that at my work. And it's really been a nice relaxing type of thing. Sometimes I wouldn't listen to that in the car necessarily, but it's just really been really nice to hear, and given our setting and how intense things can be with what I do for a living. So
Yeah.
and I've been listening to NXS Greatest Hits, which I really enjoyed, revisiting some songs. I wanted to hear the song Don't Change, and I just thought, oh, I'm in the mood for that song. One of my favorites.
The whole album's good.
Yeah. And they have 10, 12 songs that I really like very much. And I've been listening to the Style Council,
Oh, yeah.
a band that I had never invested in whatsoever. And I ended up buying an amp about a week ago, and old Vox amp. Grant loves it when I buy new amps. And
My favorite thing.
It turned out that he used this particular amp around, I guess, 81, 82, 83. And that sort of piqued my interest. So I thought, I forgot about Paul Weller of the Jam.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if I remember him being in the Style Council. That's how little I paid attention to it. I thought, oh yeah, that's right. So I listened to it. I thought, this is really great for what it is. For that era, it kind of encapsulated the 80s for me. It kind of sounds like a cross between, and Grant, forgive me for saying this, kind of a cross between Culture Club and Sade. It's got that.
I get it. Yeah.
A lot of seventh chords. It's really a lot of horns. That's the Culture Club, maybe more upbeat, but it's really got a sophistication that surprised me how good it is. Yeah, I recommend it. I really enjoyed it. It's just upbeat music. It's very
he did. Paul didn't want to. He wanted to literally kick the Jam out of memory or whatever,
Kick out the Jam.
That's right.
I don't remember any interviews where he was discussing it, but it does seem that way, that he wanted to totally forget that part of his musical life.
Yeah.
And reinvent himself. So, yeah, it's been good. Really been enjoying that. But how about you guys?
That's cool. I love the Style Council. I love the Jam. That's my jam.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned earlier Manchester Orchestra.
Yeah.
Because I've been listening to them. A great band, very unique vocal style the lead singer has.
Very much so.
Simple Math, my favorite song, but all of their stuff is really good. Also listen to Gnome, Belgian metal, maybe just hard rock. You could kind of call it metal trio. Gnome is just straight ahead rock. It's a lot of fun. They like to make fun of themselves. And if you watch their video, I know you're not big into videos, Jamey, but if you've seen their videos, they have a lot of fun making fun of themselves, and some videos making fun of the mythology tropes that a lot of heavy metal bands, the barbarians and wizards,
Viking.
So they're a lot of fun to watch their videos. The music's a lot of fun just to sing along to. Who else have I listened to? I listened to Sade today. Listened to that for a little while. Little Otis Redding in there.
You listen to Otis Redding?
Yeah, Otis Redding. I don't know if you're familiar with that guy, but he's pretty good. And that's been my playlist for the last few days.
Yeah, just real briefly on the Manchester Orchestra, I just want to give a shout out to one of my coworkers, Ty. She turned me on to that last night. I did enjoy that very much, and I was just talking to Mike off camera, and he said, "Man, I've just been listening to that." So yeah, it's
Yeah.
a new discovery for me, thanks to my coworker. I've really enjoyed it, so I'm gonna investigate that further. But yeah, it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Nice,
Great listen.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
Let's see. What have I've been going backwards? Something in me. I said I'm going to listen to. This is the past. I don't know how many days it's been. Listening back to the albums that I first started playing drums to. I thought, let me go back and if I can remember, the 4, 5, 6 albums. And one of the big ones was Frampton Comes Alive. Great album, obviously, but
You listened to that record during the time it was out a lot?
yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh,
That
wow.
was
See,
one.
that was I was a late arrival and really paying
Well,
attention.
it was
Besides
just
the
a gift. A neighbor
Oh,
who
okay.
was older. He was like 3 years older, maybe.
Right,
And I had just started playing drums. And
right.
he was like, for some reason he had gotten 2 copies or someone gifted him a copy and he already had a copy. And he was like, here, you'll enjoy this if you like rock and roll. Yeah. And you like, you're learning the drums or whatever. And it was actually, that's a great first
Oh, I love that record.
album for a drummer, just for a drummer,
Yeah.
because John Ciomos is a great drummer.
Yeah.
Great
and
feel.
Exactly. Oh my Lord. And that's, if you're going to emulate someone to start with,
Yeah.
that's, and it's great drumming, but the Police, Outlandos Theomore, let's see what else. Rumors was out at the time that I first started listening to, and that's it's Mick Fleetwood has a more simple approach, but it's perfect for what it is.
Fantastic feel. Again.
Yeah, and all some of the little stuff he does is really cool that you don't catch unless you're really listening for it. And I think
What
that's
a great rhythm section between him and
yeah.
Dominic V, which they had been playing together for 15 years, probably at that point, close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think
Feels so good.
someone got me I can't remember if I bought it or not. The Beatles, the best of the blue one, the
67 to 70.
yeah, and
No, I mean, I
love
that
take.
yeah, no, that's great.
The other one is 62 to 66.
Yeah,
I do know
and Ringo as well, a more simple, but the cool things he does are where the catch is, the thing you have to pick up on. It's just not straightforward. But yeah, it's just stuff like that. And Tom Petty, Down the Torpedoes.
I've been listening to a little bit of Tom Petty here and there.
Yeah.
Actually, I was watching the documentary Writing Down a Dream. And about the, I guess, conflict between Jimmy Iovine and Stan Lynch during the recording of that record. But Shelley Yakis was the genius of the drum sound for that record. That is one of my favorite drum sounds I think ever. I love what Shelley Yakis did for Stan Lynch during that and Hard Promises.
Yeah.
And as we've discussed on the previous episode, Stop Dragging My Heart Around. One of my favorite drum performances maybe ever. I just love how it feels, how laid back it is, but it just feels so good.
Yeah, it's perfect for that song.
Yeah.
And that actually is something that I think maybe we could talk about on a future episode, is about technique versus feel. I mean, it would be our opinion. There's no hard evidence about this, but based on our experiences, some of our favorite
that video you sent this morning with the drummer changing it up.
Displacing the beat.
Yeah, that could be a kickoff or something to talk about. Obviously, like you said, feel versus technique, because that was it right there.
I'm a feel guy, but
I'm both.
all-
But
it's
you
all
have
good.
to,
It's all
if it's
good.
just
It's all good.
technical, if it doesn't have feel, if it doesn't groove, I mean, you can play 64th quadruplets all you want to. If it doesn't suit the song, it doesn't suit the song.
Yeah,
but
I agree with that.
But yeah, and then that's about all. A couple modern things, but nothing fancy.
Nice. Okay. All right. So we'll get into our topic here, our first concert experiences. And do one of you guys want to go first with that? Or do you want me to go first?
I'll go first. I don't care.
Okay.
Grant's
All
up to
right.
bat.
I got
All right.
the possibly the best first concert you could ever have.
Okay, we'll see.
Rush Signals tour,
Oh wow.
Oh wow.
because
Well, I think I know somebody else that might have this as a choice.
oh yeah,
Maybe.
yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
I was a late goer to concerts because
Yeah, I'm surprised that you don't have an earlier choice. than
well,
that.
I tried
Right.
and tried, but I didn't really have any of the few older friends that I had they weren't into the music that I was into.
Right.
And they were going to see shows that I didn't care about going. Plus, my parents at the time would not have let me go. My parents weren't super strict, but
Right.
at the time for the kids at the time, there was a lot of rock and roll is the devil's music, and there's hidden messages in music, and a lot of people believe that trash, and a lot of parents didn't want their kids anywhere near rock and roll, much less going to a concert.
That was about the time of the Satanic Panic,
Yes,
right?
yeah.
So yeah.
Well, the Signals tour it wasn't really a thing in the late 70s.
Yeah.
It was really something that was a early 80s phenomenon.
Well, Signals was 82.
What
Well,
tour did
that
you
show
say?
was March of 83.
Yeah,
Did you not say Signals?
I did say I didn't, but it was Signals.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I know
I mean,
it has
I
to be
thought that was
Signals.
a
Yeah.
tour. Okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
knew it had to be, but yeah, the
Yeah.
show was March of 83. The
yeah.
record came out September
Yeah.
10th or 12th of 82.
Well, yeah, like I
So-
say, no, that Satan stuff was, and Rush
Right.
Yeah.
supposedly stood for resurrection under Satan's house.
Oh,
I have never heard
see?
that.
I will
ever.
never forget that. When somebody
Wow.
told that, somebody gave me a cassette tape from somebody's church, and I listened to this,
Oh,
and
my
they had
goodness.
acronyms for all the band names.
They
That
love
is a
their
waste of
acronyms.
time.
Kiss was Knights in Satan's Service, but that was Rush. Resurrect. And I'll never ever forget that. Resurrection under Satan's house.
That's
I mean,
funny.
that's like
Wow.
we literally have to make up something, anything.
yeah.
And it's just so absurd.
It's the
and,
first time I've ever heard that.
Yeah, but
Oh, wow.
learn something every day.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So I didn't. There were plenty of shows that I would love to have seen, but there was just no way I was going to be allowed to go at the time.
Right.
And finally, I convinced. I think how old was I then? 15, maybe 16. I don't remember. But anyway, my friend, he I had several friends that were going, so we all piled in his car and went. And what I'd already been familiar with Rush, obviously, but to see and hear, it's an overwhelming but overjoying experience at the same time, because you can listen to in your headphones all day long, all night long, but to hear it live, to hear the
Right.
real the sound hitting the air. And then, of course, the light show and,
Right.
Everything that goes along with that, the mood, the backdrops, everything. I can't even,
Right.
I sadly don't have any one recollection of that show. It was just such a thing, it was just, I can remember certain parts of certain songs, but I can't remember any one giant thing that stood out. It was just the whole thing obviously was amazing.
Count Floyd. You remember that?
Count Floyd.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, their little Rush always had their little funny skits and funny
Right.
stuff going
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
And
I just want to comment real quickly. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no,
the
go
thing-
ahead.
The thing about that, I think that the younger folks that Rush, and I'll give my Rush experience as well. But by the time Signals came out, we were of the age then that if you hadn't really been paying attention to the moving pictures and Exit Stage Left, by the time Signals came out and they came around, everybody was on board.
Mhm.
So it really, and I, for whatever reason, in my wisdom, decided not to go to that show. I want to say John Butcher Axis opened up for them.
Yeah.
tour.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I just wasn't. I don't know why I decided not to go. I just made a decision not to go, which I regret. because
I've done that with shows before. Like, I don't think I'm going to go this time or go
Yeah.
there. And I'm like, God, I should have.
that was a bad decision. But anyway, yeah, they were really a band that by that point that a lot of the high schoolers were on board with, and they were really hip. They were probably as hip as they ever were.
Yeah. I
Probably.
mean, MTV was new, and they
Subdivisions.
the
and,
Subdivisions video was on every 3 times an hour or something back in the day.
right. Fun time.
Yeah,
And
but
do you still have your $12.50 ticket stub?
I do somewhere, and I still have
Really?
my tour book. I didn't think about it. I should have dug it
wow.
out and looked for it because I know I have it, and I think I know where it is. I have a antique map chest, and I believe it's in there because all the drawers
wow.
are little tiny thin.
I traded my tour book for a copy of All the World's a Stage. Do you still have that tour book, Jamie?
I thought that I might have gotten it from you. I did get it from you.
Yeah.
I've
I've still got the LP.
Oh
Trade
wow.
back. Michael wants to trade back now.
I was gonna say that I might have gotten it from you, but yeah,
Yeah.
I remember looking through it. For me, this is how nerdy I am. I love guitars. Pictures of guitars. I still get a charge out of.
And it's got all the list of all the equipment.
Yeah, that's fun for me as well. Although I think that I can remember having a conversation being 13 years old with a couple of my friends and telling them, looking through a magazine, going, "Oh, there's a Rickenbacker, oh, there's a Gibson," and they go, "You don't know what that is." I go, "No, it is," and I was right, but I was already into gear.
Mm-hmm.
I knew what was what at a really early period. I was just really into it. So I think I already knew what Alex used. There was no surprises for me. Maybe with Getty's keyboard gear, I wouldn't have aware, but I knew he played a Rickenbacker and all that stuff. And Alex played ES-355 and blah, blah, blah. So, but yeah, it's always fun to see those type of things as a young musician.
Yeah, I miss tour books because they're just so cool. And and I would much rather pay $20 for a tour book than $85 for a hoodie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. If it fits.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if you could get a tour book for $20. They're probably $50 these days.
I was just saying, I was just lowballing it to say, well, I mean, back in the day they were
$12, probably
$8, $12, depending on the
$8. Right.
Yeah, I remember some ticket stubs, $8.50, $12.50, 13, and now shows $100 damn bucks for a nosebleed seat.
I think Genesis was $14. I think.
Yeah.
That
was probably one of the most expensive shows because the Police was $12.50. I think.
Mm-hmm.
I've got my tickets.
Those are 3 shows that I really regret not seeing. The Genesis was December of '83, I believe.
Yeah.
Police would have been June, maybe August of '83. I can't recall exactly. 3 shows that I totally regret not seeing. And you guys have all those experiences in your brain that I'm jealous of. So,
well,
that was a great time.
Grant was late to his first concert, but you've made up for that, haven't you?
Oh yeah,
because I remember you. Man, you've been to so many shows.
I got a stack of ticket stubs. Like if I stacked them up and pressed them down with a brick, they'd still be that thick.
Cool,
which is awesome. Yeah.
All right, Mike, you interested in going?
So that was a great concert, and I remember it quite well. My first concert was the Electric Light Orchestra in October of '81 in the Greensboro Coliseum. It was my first show. I was a big ELO fan at the time. ELO was the first band that I think I'd chosen myself to follow. I'd listened to Kiss before, but really a friend told me, you got to hear this, that kind of thing. The other albums or bands I listened to were stuff that my brother and my sister, my older brother and older sister would listen to. And I'd kind of glom onto that, and check it out. But ELO was the first band that I really got excited about and followed on my own, bought their LPs. Their Time album came out, and I remember going to the Coliseum box office with my mom and dad, because boys and girls back in the day, you drove to the venue and you bought your ticket there for $12 or however much, and went to the show, and it was everything I thought it would be. for the most part. But you know what? Retroactively,
Yeah.
looking back at it, I think of all these little things that I didn't get to experience that I wanted to, because I'd heard so much about the previous tour when they came out in the big spaceship. The stage was a flying saucer and it moved up and down. For the Time tour, their stage was relatively flat, kind of a satin chrome stage, and they had a big screen behind them, just like Rush always does. They had a big screen where they projected different pictures, but it wasn't, I enjoyed it at the time. I thought it was great, but it wasn't as big and as I thought it would be.
Spectacle.
It wasn't the big spectacle.
Yeah.
They had, of course, Star Wars was big then, and everyone, I guess, was waiting for the second Star Wars film. So they had a budget Timu R2D2 come out and introduce the show.
Timu D2.
Yeah, Timu D2. And that was kind of fun, but yeah, it was quite the experience. I remember what I felt then, but looking back at it, it's kind of funny to break it down and criticize it. They did some songs off the Time album, and then they went back and did a medley of all their hit songs, which was cool.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
But
you're like, I want to hear the whole.
That's just it. I was kind of disappointed even then, because I want to hear that. I want to hear Mama Bell, the whole thing, and they just play a section of it. So it was kind of cool that they played this long medley, and they were able to do that.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I want to hear that whole song or this whole song.
Right.
So, it was kind of a trade-off. One other thing is, after the Discovery album, Jeff Lynne got fed up with the string section and fired them all. So on the Time album, there were no strings. But on the tour, fortunately, Mick Kaminsky was there to play violin and keyboards. So that was cool to see most of the band.
Yeah, you have to have some strings to play the old stuff.
Yeah, to play the old stuff. And he had a violin solo at one point. It was pretty cool. So it was great to see the band I was most into at the time, to see them live. That was really cool. Even with the Bad Seats and my first experience of secondhand smoke from the Devil's Lettuce back there in the corner.
It was just, you couldn't avoid it back then.
Yeah.
It was ubiquitous.
And Hall & Oates opened up for them.
Oh, wow.
Oh, you're kidding.
Which was an interesting choice. I really wasn't into them.
Private Eyes tour for them.
Yeah, they played Rich Girl, and I'm like, oh, they're the ones who played that song, because I didn't know at the time.
Well, that's like, I thought it was a mismatch when Stevie Ray Vaughan opened up for Huey Lewis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Okay, but it was great.
But ELO's song, Hold On Tight.
Yeah.
I think it might have cracked the top 10 then. I don't know. That was their highest charting song.
It was really atypical of what ELO sounded like. I always thought it was a weird choice for a single,
but Hall & Oates had like 3 top 10 hits that year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It was kind of odd for them to open up.
Well, they already had booked the shows, probably signed the contracts, and they're like, well, we got to go through with it.
But it was great. Everybody had a good time with Hall & Oates, and then ELO came on, and it was a great time with them. It was looking back, I can moan and groan about the things I'm disappointed about that I didn't get to see, but really, what a great first show, seeing 2 classic acts back to back. So
I think I'm more jealous of the fact you saw Hall & Oates back then than ELO. And I do have a comment on why they chose to get rid of the big elaborate stage. And I've read this, and it certainly makes sense. Actually, I don't think it was money. I'm sure the production costs were probably crazy, but this big UFO was a big fiberglass shell, I guess, and it sounded horrific. Sounds were bouncing around, and I think it was a really difficult situation for them, but they couldn't.
There were no in-ear monitors back then.
Yeah. Jeff Lynne said it sounded terrible on stage through that entire tour.
Wow. Can you imagine doing a tour that big?
Yeah.
And having terrible sound the entire time.
Yeah. There's no way to, test it before it's built.
Yeah.
I mean, how are you going to do that? So I think that they
Should've
were,
put some
that was
sound
not
deadening
that.
foam in there.
Well, this was 45 years ago.
Yeah.
No, no. Yeah, 40, yeah, 47 years ago. It was just not easy. I don't even
Shut
know what the
shut your
Discovery
mouth.
tour was like, but talking about the Out of the Blue tour, 1978, that actually is my first concert experience. I saw
Mm,
them July 7th, 1978. My
nice.
oldest sister took me for my birthday. Um, it was a lot of fun. It was the first time I had ever been in. No, it's not the first time I'd ever been into the Coliseum there, but it's the first time I ever saw a show. And it was a great rock and roll experience. Just recall it being fun. I don't recall any downside to it. They did play the songs as I remember. Being that young, maybe you're not as tuned in to the little things that didn't go right, maybe. I have no
Yeah.
recollection of anything that seemed out of the ordinary. They played, it
Yep.
was like the greatest hits. And back then, I've thought about this many times through the years. Um, when you're younger, you probably have the same awareness as a non-musician who's just kind of like, it's all good.
Yeah, you're not thinking about
You're not
little
Yeah.
thinking right,
flat notes or somebody
right.
singing sharp or a
You
drummer
just
missing a lick or whatever.
right.
You're
You're
just
taking it
enjoying it.
all in,
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
and everything's new. So you're like, well, okay, that was good. There was no way I could dissect it. I don't
I've
recall. I don't have enough. As good as my memory can be, I don't have the recollection to say that anything stood out to me
I
that
can
night. It was
recall
just a lot.
being at shows and having to turn my brain off. Like, I'm not enjoying this because I'm listening for inaccuracies. And that's not a way to enjoy the
Um,
experience, And like, if you hear
yeah.
one thing and it catches your ear and like, oh, that was a little off, then you try to actively listen. That part of your brain is like, oh, I'm going to listen, and they're like, no, I'm not enjoying this. I'm just listening for mistakes.
Well, I would say the difference between, I agree with that statement, but I think the difference between my first concert experience and the two of yours is that I didn't necessarily choose to go to this show. It was chosen for me, although it was great. But that wouldn't have been my first concert experience. Kiss, a Live 2 tour, would have been my first concert
Mhm.
experience. It just, my sister made it up to me for not being able to take me to that show, which was the plan originally a few months prior
Gotcha.
to that.
Yeah.
And but I got my first record out of that, Kiss Alive 2. So that was a great thrill and great memory for me. Um, yeah, so having given our first concert experience, we thought we'd also talk a little bit about just some highlights, some different shows that we've, can remember, maybe a handful of shows here and there during our earlier years. So um, I'll go with that if I can, because I want to talk about Rush.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Now, I had the unique experience of, among other bands, but a few other bands. I had the unique experience when I was younger of working or helping out. I always say working, but I don't think I legally could work there. Helping out at a record store. And I got really educated about a lot of music that I would have taken me many years longer to have been exposed to, most likely. But it seemed like anything was possible back then. I didn't know anybody in my little group that had gone to a show before. Um, so having access to these records all of a sudden made me feel empowered that I could go to shows. And my parents were okay with it. We can talk a little bit about, that period of time. There were some questionable experiences I had, or I don't know. We'll talk about that maybe. But I actually won tickets for my second concert to see Ted Nugent, the Scorpions, and Def Leppard open the show.
Wow.
That
Wow.
was in July of 80 as well. Or maybe no, it was June of 80. June of 80, I think. That was off of uh, RQK, K99, the radio station back then. It was just I don't know what window of time. It didn't seem like it was very long to me, but they played all the stuff that I wanted to hear at that time,
Yeah.
which was the hot rock of the moment.
Yeah. I don't think that station lasted a very long.
Yeah, I think it really was short lived, but there for a year, maybe a little less. It was fantastic it was just at the perfect time for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I won tickets to see them. And my older brother, Craig, took me to go see them, and it was a great experience. That was my first rock and roll. ELO is just a different animal. This was going to a rock and roll show, and we were like, this was back with festival seatings where there was not any designated tickets. You could just go up to wherever you wanted to get. If you could get up to the front, you can make it up there. That's where you were sitting.
Yeah.
So we made it up like to the first or second row, just kind of weaseled our way up there. And I remember vividly watching these guys at that, just from that distance. It was wild. It was just fantastic. It made an incredible experience on me, or, just impression, I should say. So, not ever having heard of Def Leppard before that. And the Scorpions did have a couple of songs that they were playing on the radio at that time. The Zoo and Make It Real from their Animal Magnetism tour. So I had heard that. So I bought both those records. And I think I bought Scream Dream. And I say bought. I had access to anything I wanted to back then, which was amazing. So I got all three of those records like the next week. And for a short period of time became a huge Ted Nugent fan, and that was short-lived. I realize you get kind of everything immediately. There's really nothing left.
Yeah, there's not much.
So
after that.
my zest for him was short-lived, but I did buy his whole catalog there for a while, but got into it. But then 2 months later, I won tickets to go see maybe even less than 2 months, AC/DC on the Back in Black tour.
Wow.
And so those were my first 3 concert experiences. And then I saw several other shows, but I want to say there are 2 other shows that came up right after that. I can remember going to get the tickets for REO Speedwagon on the High Infidelity tour. And it seems like so milquetoast now. They were at the top of their game on that tour, and they were playing wonderfully.
Yeah.
I have a fantastic memory of that show. It was June of 1981, and Billy Squier opened up for him.
Oh, wow.
It was a great experience. And my parents did let me go to that show, and they took me, dropped me off, and said, call us as soon as it's over. And I did that. And I looked back on it, and I thought, no, if that was safe, but they knew I was a good kid and I wasn't going to just jump in some stranger's car. But still, I did exactly that. I called and they went to pick me up, and it was all great. But
nowadays, someone calls CPS immediately.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I guess I didn't look like I had I didn't look like a 9-year-old or whatever. But, and then the next show, and then I'll finish up. I saw Rush on the Exit Stage Left tour, December 6, 1981, Sunday night. And I remember just being so excited to see that show.
Satan's band playing on a Sunday night.
Yeah. That was such a wonderful year for me, 1981. I had such an education and got turned on to so much new music. I still think that's one of the best years for rock ever. Just music. There was so much great music that year from top to bottom.
Yeah.
But having, I don't know if it would have been the next year I turned you on to Rush, I guess, Mike, that you weren't really necessarily into them at that point, but
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody else was into Rush, but I was completely into them. I didn't have anybody that I could talk to about it, but it did not matter. I can remember just being completely just totally into that band.
I don't think I really had anyone until me and Michael became friends.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I had friends, obviously, and some friends I went to that show with. I guess Joe and I had just talked about Rush before, and but not like like talked about it. You know what I mean?
I think by the time the Signals tour came around, I kind of feel like, oh, I've been there, done that. And that's
I'm
not the
too
reason
good for
why.
this show.
Well, that's not the reason why. This is the real truth to why I made a decision not to go. And this is still something that I think about. It's Alex had changed his guitar style. Being a very young, impressionable guitar player, had only been playing for 2, 3 years, whatever it was, and he wasn't soloing in the same way that he had on even on moving pictures, especially not anything like Permanent Waves. It was more modern. It
Oh
was
yeah.
more sparse. He was using a lot of harmonics, and he wasn't playing in that style that I was really trying to emulate and turned on to, and really what one of the things that got me into the band. So I think I just was thinking this is not going to be as good. And you don't have enough life experience to think, well, no, it's going to be great. It's just going to be
Yeah.
different. And so I have always had regrets about not going to that show. But I did see them on the Exit Stage Left tour. They did play Subdivisions in December of '81
Mm.
prior to being on the record. And there you can hear that on YouTube. They played that on the whole Exit Stage Left tour, I'm pretty sure. But it was such a great experience seeing them in that period of time, because I think that was the last of that part of their career. They really did modernize.
Oh yeah.
Even though
Yeah.
81 is in the 80s, I think really Signals is when they became an 80s band. Not an 80s band, but they really kind
There were
of
more keyboards,
it
more
just yeah, it was different.
production was different. Yeah.
It was different. They had a bigger budget. They had a lot of success, and that was fantastic. But for me as a young musician, I really wanted there to be more progressiveness,
Yeah.
and they shaved a lot of that away. And I totally understand why. As an adult and as a musician for all these years, you just have to follow your heart and also your career. You kind of can see the writing on the wall. This is going to be better for us as a act, and as a money making machine. But I am glad that I saw them. I think a bunch of us went to go see them on the Power Windows tour a few years later. That was the
Yeah.
next time that I saw them, and that was great. That was
Yeah.
great. I don't remember having any real eye-opening experiences, any surprises going, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that, but it was all good. But they were
Yeah.
they were always a consistent band live. They always tried to play their very best, and that was one of the things that I think it makes them so respected.
Hmm.
You know, so
Yeah.
those are a few of my first experiences.
Every Rush show I've ever been to has been as good as every other Rush show.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I mean, music wise, I've heard them make a few mistakes, but that's just humanity. Being a person playing an instrument. But um, it's just amazing to have that consistency, because we've heard about bands before, like, oh, this
Right.
whole tour was terrible. They said everybody played a
Right.
bad show, but not in their case. And Rush was a band uh, like you were saying, that was the first band I chose. Nobody turned me on to it. Nobody said,
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
uh,
I'm glad you said that, because I
yeah,
did want to say this earlier. Everything that I ever listened to, I chose. I mean, ELO is not a concert I chose
yeah,
necessarily, although it was great, and I am a huge fan of the band. But every band that I ever spent any time listening to, there wasn't even though I'm the youngest of five, I didn't have any siblings try to turn me on to music. They didn't
yeah.
really care. I was completely on my own. There's a big difference in age.
But yeah, I think
Yeah.
everything I chose, except like when we got to be friends, and he was like, "Oh,
Yeah.
check this out," because I had never.
Well, that's different. I mean,
Yeah,
being
yeah,
turned on to something, but I never really I think that I remember really tuning into everything on my own.
yeah,
And I
Yeah.
don't know how unique that is. I mean, everybody goes through young adulthood.
yeah,
I mean, it's all like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was all just amazing. Just getting turned on to Pink Floyd for the first time. seeing a Pink Floyd Animals T-shirt from my brother, who
Yeah, and be like, what is that?
would
Yeah.
never listen to that. He wouldn't
Mhm.
listen to that. I don't think he's ever listened to Animals, but he
That's
wore
funny.
that T-shirt, and I was like, Pink Floyd, the Animals. There's a pig on your shirt.
I remember there was a drummer in the neighborhood, and I would just like sit in the yard and listen. It was summertime, and he would open the window, and I would just listen to him play drums because I didn't have a drum set, and I was really into the drums. And finally, I would like holler, well, "Who was that?" And he would just holler out the window as if it was an annoyance. It's Led Zeppelin. Shut up, kid. You know, just like I mean,
was
in a
this the
fun,
same guy that gave you the extra copy of Frampton Comes Alive?
no, different guy.
Oh, it's not. Okay, I assumed
Different
that
guy,
was the
yeah.
same guy. Okay.
No, this is a different guy. But yeah, and he was a cool guy. He was just like, you know, who's this kid? You know, why are you sitting in my yard? And yeah, it was quite funny. And I like then I had to figure out who was this. Then you figure out, oh, that's this band. I've heard this song, you know, a bunch on the radio, but I didn't know that was their name.
Right.
But yeah, it's just so funny how you get turned on to stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I hate that I can't remember, and I wish I was like you, Mr. General Chronological, and could remember my concerts. You got me thinking. I was like, I need to find my ticket stubs and put them in chronological order, and then relive a little history of, oh yeah, I remember this was this and this was that. You know,
Again, that's so many
Well,
concerts.
we'll
yeah,
just-
I
we'll-
know. That's
lot-
what I mean.
that's a
That's
lot to
crazy.
remember.
We'll just mention a few of them, and I'll tell you what year it was.
Yeah, well, you had said the Police. I was at that show, and then I believe the Huey Lewis show was in '84.
It was 84. It was summer of 84.
I was going to
Yeah.
say
was
the
di-
police show Scritti Politti
Yes,
opened up, right?
I still love them.
I had
I
to
love
ask you about that.
yeah.
Wow.
Such a cool little different unique band or whatever. But
I can remember on the Huey Lewis show, somebody coming into the local guitar store, Smith Whitley, where I was a constant hangout for me. We had Kirby on the show. Some guy came in talking to Jerry Whitley saying that Stevie Ray Vaughan opened up, and I was like, Stevie Ray Vaughan opened up for Huey Lewis, as you previously discussed. But I had known that since that time.
yeah, it was
And I
such a
thought,
mismatch.
what an odd pairing, but yeah.
We had seats about 3/4 back on the floor just as it
Yeah.
started rising, and
Yeah.
when Stevie came on, I just kind of snuck my way up to about the 6th or 7th row and kind of just tried to blend in. And but I was more interested in Stevie Ray than I was. I think a group of us went to see Huey, and it was just like, oh, we're going to the Huey Lewis show. You want to go? I was like, oh yeah, cool, no worries. And then who's opening up? Oh, some dude named Stevie Ray. I was like, what? Okay, I'm there. And
Oh,
but I
wow.
was more at the time. I was more into Stevie Ray than I was, Huey Lewis. But yeah, I saw the whole set, about 40-minute set, I guess.
Oh wow.
Pretty close, and I was like, "Man, it's so good." And then I went back, and they were like, "What'd you do that for?" I said, "Because it was awesome." Are you crazy?
Well,
But,
Couldn't Stand the Weather was out. That was the tour
Yeah.
that he was touring behind, right?
But yeah, it was sort of a musical Not that it's
Yeah.
it's they're both good music, but it's just such an odd pairing. You know, Huey is more
That's pop
traditional
music.
kind of
Yeah.
pop
And
rock
it's
and roll or
fantastic.
whatever. Yeah,
Yeah,
there's
I've
nothing,
listened to a
no
lot of
shade
it.
at all. It was a great
No.
concert. You know, a lot of fun, a lot of fun.
There are so many great songs. I've listened to a lot of Huey Lewis in the last couple weeks, and so many great songs.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
I was at the Duran Duran show on the Seven and the Ragged Tiger tour.
Jealous of that as well. I would have loved to have seen that.
Do you know when that was? Can
That
you
would have been in
recall?
'84. I don't know specifically what month. It was definitely
I
84.
think it was December. I remember it being cold.
Really?
I could be wrong, or maybe
Well, you
October.
know,
I remember it was chilly.
Yeah, the Seven of the Ragged Tiger came out like in late summer, early fall of '83. I know Union and the Snake was out in August
Yeah.
of '83, I think.
Yeah.
So the '84 tour, the Reflex concert, or that video was on MTV in the summer of '84.
Yeah.
So here's the thing that is just the way it is. North Carolina, where we grew up, is sort of a secondary market, not a major market. So there were a lot of tours that, I mean, bands know that they're going to sell out a show or do well at a venue. So even though it's a secondary market, that's still 10, 12, or however many people, 1,000
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
So that's, revenue.
It's a nice
So
payday.
there are bands that maybe like the Police. I know they played twice at Greensboro. They played on the Ghost of the Machine tour January of '82, and then they played in the summer of '83 on the Synchronicity tour. They hadn't played prior to that. They wouldn't probably have done well.
Yeah.
They
Not
hadn't
that early. Yeah.
established themselves. So it doesn't surprise me. I would have guessed that it was earlier on the Arena tour or Seven and Ragged
Yeah.
Tiger tour. But that sort of does make sense. After they had a certain amount of success, then all of a sudden the promoters say, "Oh, okay, we can go to these markets because the band has reached this level of
Oh, yeah.
success."
And I'll
Then
tell
we
you
can get. That's probably what happened.
the thing that I most remember from that show, and I think I've mentioned this before, and I don't know in a previous podcast,
Right.
but it was the screaming. It was like the Beatles. The screaming was so loud at times you could not hear. They would start a song, and because we were on the first tier of the nosebleed seats way back,
Right.
and that little bit of delay, the screaming would start before we could hear what song it was. Like the music would start, but because of that second and a third delay or something, the screaming would reach us before the music would reach us. And like, I remember my friend was like, what song is this? Do you know? I don't know. And it would be like the chorus until okay, that's what song it is. I mean, that's at times it was very annoying. I was like, this is not fun.
You could say that Duran Duran are one of maybe only a few bands that had this kind of teen, star. Now they weren't teen stars, but that the same kind of. There's a certain age group, especially young girls, that may be into a band that maybe guys wouldn't be interested in. But
Yeah.
Duran Duran were actually really fine musicians and have the catalog to back it up. There weren't that many bands that maybe could appeal to the teeny boppers, so to speak. And also some guys that were in the know that's like, these guys are really solid players. This is good stuff. I was always a huge fan of John Taylor's bass playing.
Yeah.
It was definitely the first thing that stood out to me in the band.
Now seeing them later in the late or early mid 90s sometime, it was such a different okay, oh, this is nice. I can enjoy the music,
Right.
But
every band has the moment, I guess.
Yeah, and when was the when did Van Halen, was that 84 as well?
The 84 record was February 3rd of 84, I believe.
Okay, yeah, I was at that show, and
I
do remember
Autograph opened up for them.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to their first record. Pretty forgettable, as I recall. Nobody knew their stuff, I mean.
And they had the one big song, Turn Up the Radio.
Yeah, but that was a year later.
Yeah.
It was a year later. I think that
crazy.
came out like in January of 85. So.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. So they didn't play anything anybody knew on that 84 tour.
Yeah.
But that was a phenomenal show. I do recall one thing about that show. I was there as well. Almost the entire Judas Priest Defenders of the Faith record was played prior to the band coming on.
Yes, I
remember song. I mean, it had just come out like a couple of months prior to that. Or maybe it was December of 83. It might have been January.
I guess the sound guy was a big fan. I remember saying that.
Somebody was.
I guess this guy loves the GP. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it really was like. I mean, it was almost the entire record.
Yeah, usually you get for those that don't know, and I don't know if they're not like that anymore. The sound guy would just put on music, and it would just randomly, he would have a mixtape, I guess, and soundboard mixtape, and you would hear all kind of stuff. You would hear stuff you didn't know. You would hear weird stuff sometimes. But yeah, I remember that. I was like, are they going to play the whole album? I forget who did I go with? It wasn't you.
It wasn't me.
Who did I go? Oh, Robert Martin. Yeah, and we were like, are they going to play the whole album?
It was. It seemed like it was most of the record, at the very least. I also saw Quiet Riot and Saga and Headpins in December of 83.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was the Heads or Tails tour.
How did I miss that?
I didn't go for Saga. I didn't go for Saga, but it was great to see them. I'm glad that I had that experience of seeing them on my tour.
Yeah.
Um, but Headpins. Yeah.
I don't even know who that is.
Well, Headpins were kind of offshoot of the band Chilliwack. There was a guy named
Yeah.
Brian
Oh, okay.
McLeod.
Okay,
He
now I
was
know.
kind of, I think he was in both bands. They were huge in Canada, never really made
Yeah.
really impact in the US, but I think it had a female lead singer in Headpins, I think. It didn't do anything for me, as I recall. But yeah, Quiet Riot. My brother wanted to go to that show. I wouldn't have gone.
Yeah.
I seen them 2 months prior to that on the Iron Maiden Peace of Mind tour.
Oh,
They
wow.
opened up that show in Charlotte.
Yeah.
I
Me and
missed
my
that
brother
show.
and Mr. Brian Rousey, who was a
Oh,
good friend at the time. Yeah, we were music buddies back then, and
were
that
you
was
at
a lot of fun.
the Hart, Kansas show?
No, I've never seen Heart. No,
That
that's
was
not true. I saw them in Kurt Carowinds in 1985, the night before our senior year started. That was a terrible drive back from Charlotte. I thought I was going to drive. Everybody decided to go to sleep, and I was the one that was
Oh,
awake.
Lord, trying to
Back.
stay awake. Yeah.
It was horrible.
No
Not a great
fun.
experience.
Yeah, I think the Kansas Heart tour, they each night they rotated who was going on first.
Oh,
And
really?
I think
Was
yeah,
that
because
the Drastic Measures tour?
was that I can't remember if that was 84, 85. It had to have been 85.
No, it couldn't have been that late because Kansas they weren't even around.
Oh
at
yeah,
that
Drastic Measures was 83, wasn't it?
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no way it could have been 84,
It must have been
85.
83 then. It must I'm trying
Yeah.
to think who I went with.
Kerry Livgren had left the band in late 83 or early 84.
Yeah. Well, he was still with them at that show, so
Yeah, that was the
before that,
Drastic
yeah.
Measures tour, probably. That was
Okay.
the what was the name of that record? It had How Can I Refuse on it. Came out in 83. Yeah, the name of it.
My
I
brain's
think
gone.
it had Allies on it as well, maybe.
Mm.
Anyway, that was
I
the
can't
record.
recall, yeah.
That was the first record with Denny Carmassi and Mark Andes as a rhythm section. I think is right. That was a fun time. I mean, all these these bands were all touring behind these records, and this was the MTV era where MTV was incredibly important. It just cannot go without saying how important it was back then. You got exposure to all these videos, and these bands became enormous overnight.
MTV was what YouTube is now, basically.
Yeah, people just don't. I mean, there was nothing else to do back then. I mean, it was really
read a book, young man.
Yeah, video games existed, but they weren't a thing yet.
No.
So it really was like, okay, well, music was so much more a bigger part of our lives back then.
It surely was.
And whenever MTV had these Saturday night concerts that they would play, that was for those who love music. That was great. Yeah, but to see these all these bands at really important parts of their career, I think.
Remember when they simulcast Asia from Asia?
Yeah, that was December 6, 1983. Yeah.
That just popped into my head. Sorry.
Yeah, that was I remember the Greg Lake had stepped in for that show because John Wetton and Steve Howe were not getting along. I think they decided to part ways. That was the reason John Wetton decided to leave. But there was a big behind the scenes where it showed John Wetton carrying his bass in a case in an airport walking away. I thought, okay. Even as a young guy, I thought that's a bit dramatic.
That's a bit scripted.
Yeah, it was a bit scripted for sure. But that was actually a pretty good show. I've watched that show, and I have the iTunes version of that. They released that audio version a while back. Sounds pretty good, but yeah. It was just a fun time. I have amazing memories of our first concerts. Mike and I have seen a couple of shows together.
What else have you seen back in the day?
Oh goodness.
that you can recall?
You know, I was thinking earlier, it's interesting you touched on seeing ELO when
Yeah.
you really didn't know much about music, and then
Right.
seeing Rush or whomever once you started playing guitar.
Yeah.
Because the first time when I saw ELO, I didn't have any inkling about playing music, and then I saw the Signals tour with Rush, and I'd already you know been taking some guitar lessons, so it was a big difference. My reaction to the music, it was very exciting to see musicians play as opposed to your favorite band just hearing the songs.
Right.
So that was a big deal, and it was a lot of fun. I went with my brother again to the Greensboro Coliseum. I think the most fun I had at a Rush concert was their Power Windows tour because so many of us
Yeah.
in high school went to so many of our friends were there. It was such a big deal. We were all so excited to go. And it's different when, you said you didn't have anyone to talk to Rush about. At the Signals tour, I really didn't have a lot of people to talk to about them, but Power Windows, everybody was into it.
Yeah.
And we had third row seats, which quickly became
Did we?
first row seats. I
Oh,
did.
wow. I don't remember
And
where I sat, honestly.
yeah, a bunch of folding chairs and everybody's pushing forward. Is like, well, I guess I'll go
Oh,
forward
wow.
too. So we were right there at the barrier, right there in front of
Blue
Alex.
Oyster Cult opened up that show.
Yes, and Blue Oyster Cult, I love them, but they look
Yeah.
like a garage band opening up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
really didn't. They didn't have that presence up there
I
on
can't
stage.
remember
But
where we sat. We hollered at y'all. We saw y'all.
yeah,
I do remember that, but
we were right there.
it was my
in the front
neighbor,
row.
Chris Walton, and Mark, I believe. We all three went to that show. It was just us three. And I know we were on the floor, but we weren't that close. But I remember we did see y'all and we hollered. And
Yeah,
y'all were like, hey, hey. But
Jamey, I think we've been to 2 Rush concerts together.
Yeah. Counterparts and probably Power Windows.
Well, didn't we go see Presto together?
No, I don't
Charlotte?
think so.
That
No?
was in
No.
Charlotte.
I went to go see Presto in Charlotte, but I don't
Oh,
think
you were there. I was there too.
I don't think that we were together that night.
I don't know.
Did I go with you? I remember the sound at that show being awful. There
Yeah,
was
it
like
was
some sub bass
glitchy. Something was
issue
going
that
on. Yeah.
it was
Yeah.
not a good experience for me at all.
Rush is the one concert, the one band that I've seen like 5, 6 times. I'll have to check my tour books plus
Yeah.
one,
Yeah.
plus one that I don't have. And see how many times
If
I've
only you
gone.
knew what you did with it.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you on that Presto show. Did you see the opening band, Mr. Big? Because I did not see them. That
I
would
did.
answer.
Yes.
I know I didn't go with you, Grant, but
I know, but yeah.
I don't recall.
that would answer my question whether we went together because I don't remember
Oh.
us going together.
Yeah,
I don't think we were hanging out back then.
I don't
You know what I
recall.
mean? Like
Yeah.
You had a
I did not see Mr. Big. That I remember. But
There was some band that had a radio hit and they didn't do it for me, but apparently they didn't do it for a lot of people because they got booed opening for Rush. I can't
on that
remember who it
tour?
was.
No,
I
but,
don't
Mr.
remember specifically,
I don't
but
even think Mr. Big had a radio hit at that time. The next
yeah.
year
Or
they
some
had
other band that opened up for Rush at one
Oh,
time
okay.
that
Oh,
one
okay.
time, whether it's Presto or Counterparts, I don't remember.
Well,
But,
I
yeah, they got
seem to
booed on
remember that
stage.
now.
Do you remember?
You're unlocking a hidden memory in my
Yeah,
brain
I don't
somewhere. I seem to remember booze.
maybe we went to see that together. I don't
You
know.
sure it wasn't
Jamie,
John Butcher Axis?
I don't
John
think
Butcher
it
was awesome.
Oh,
man.
he was
Was he?
freaking amazing. Yeah.
Never heard him before, except
He had
until
such
they
a
opened up.
short-lived career. I hated it because I kept waiting. And when you
Yeah.
going to do another album? When you and back then we didn't have information like we can just look up stuff now.
Right.
But it was just up in the ether. You know, it's like I guess they're still alive. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
But as far as stage presence, I was talking about this earlier before we started. A friend of my brother's and mine, we worked together. He offered us Hank Williams Jr. tickets, the night of the show. He said, "I'm going to the show. You want to go?" Sure, why not? So we closed the store. We went immediately to the Coliseum just in time for the lights to go down, and our backs were against the wall on the very last row.
Oh my gosh.
I passed God on the way up. It was so high. Of course, he had better tickets than I did because
Yeah,
he's
because he's
God.
God.
Yeah. But yeah, we were way up there, man. And Hank Williams Jr. played a few songs with his band, and then they disappeared. They brought out a stool, and Hank Jr. played to the Coliseum with just an acoustic guitar for the longest time. And it was amazing that he could put on such a great, entertaining show. And I'm not a great big fan of Hank Jr., but he did put on an amazing show. So that's a standout. Because like I'd said earlier, I went with no real expectations and was really pleased having
Sometimes
gone to that.
that's great, you know,
Yeah.
to
Exactly.
be dragged to a show and then you almost enjoy it more than if you go see your favorite band, you know.
Mike and I were talking before we started recording, where there's at least 2 shows that I can remember having no expectation. And I'm going to see the band Mo this weekend. And I am not super familiar with their catalog, and I'm just going to try to enjoy it. You know, it may be amazing, it may not, but I'm going to try to just have fun. But I went to go see Motley Crue in 1985, December 13th, 1985, Friday.
Theater of Pain tour.
Theater of Pain tour. Autograph also opened up that show.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm pretty sure Autograph opened up that show. I think that's right.
I
had no expectations. I went at the last second. I never was particularly a big fan back then. It wasn't important to me, but I had a great time. It was a great rock and roll show. Rock and roll.
Yeah.
You know, it's just like these moments where you have to take off your musician hat. It was fun.
Just be a fan hat.
It was what a rock show should be. And I had a great time, and I have a great memory of that show. And I was a bigger fan after that night. I thought, well, that's what a rock show should be. That's what probably a Kiss show would be 10 years before that for a lot of people. Just a spectacle. And that was kind of a nice stage show that they had.
I'll tell you,
a lot of fun.
A fun show that I didn't choose for myself, even though I liked both bands. My sister wanted to go see Bon Jovi, and Rat opened up.
1985, yeah.
That was a cool show, you know, because I wasn't there as like, I gotta see these.
I think Rat were the headliners in Bon Jovi.
Oh, maybe they were. Maybe it was flip-flops. I don't know.
That tour was the Invasion of Your Privacy tour. And Bon Jovi had the 7,800 Fahrenheit record. They weren't headlining. The next year, Wanted Dead or Alive or Slippery When Wet.
That makes more sense. Anyway,
that came out in '86. They started having monster
huge
success.
Yeah.
But Rat had that huge stage that is in the You're in Love video.
Yeah,
that would have been. I'm pretty sure they were the headliners on that tour.
Yeah,
I did not see that show though.
Now that you say that, that makes more sense.
Right.
But yeah, I had no expectation. It was just like, okay, this is all right, you know.
I've never seen Bon Jovi live in all these years. It's too late now.
It's too late now.
Never seen them.
But yeah, and there's a couple more shows I got dragged to. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I did, like you said, I just remember having a good time. You know, it might not even been something I was into, but it's just that, like you said, there's no expectation. You're just hanging out, having fun.
We can take ourselves too seriously. I certainly am guilty of that, you know, but this should be fun. Music is fun. It should be enjoyable. Yeah. We should. And I think that the older I get, the more I realize that it's all good. You know, whatever you want to listen to, if you enjoy it, that's great. You know, I don't have to like it. It doesn't matter. You know, but if it's fun and you get a kick out of it, that's the only thing that matters.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of variety of bands to listen to and to go see live, just like everything in life. Variety. You know, we all have our tastes, and we should all just do what we do and enjoy what we enjoy.
You know, they do say it's the spice of life.
I have heard that before. Yes.
Oh, you have? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have heard that a time or two. All right. Well, that's cool. Anything else you guys want to add? Any more memories or anything?
I've got a ton. I need to shut up.
One thing I want to talk about, and I'm sure I've mentioned this plenty of times before, a show that I had so many expectations for, and it completely fulfilled all of them. is
Oh,
seeing
wow.
Miles Davis, 1988, at the
Oh,
Carolina Theater in
wow.
Greensboro. Listened to him before, not a huge fan, but I really liked him. But when I heard he was coming, I caught up on the catalog a little bit. And I was so excited to see him.
I'm jealous I missed that show.
Curtains open, the band is there playing, and you can, the whole place is humming, ready to see Miles. And he doesn't come out for like 3 minutes while the band plays.
Yeah, that sounds right.
And then he comes out on stage holding his trumpet, not playing it. And again, it's like the place just lit up. He was electric. That's the only way to describe it. And I remember that feeling, seeing him come out, and it was just, and I kind of laughed. I laughed out loud because I'm like, he's not even playing his trumpet, and
Everybody's
I'm
going
just
crazy.
so excited.
Yeah. Mhm.
And he played a lot of modern stuff. I remember he played Tutu, and he played some covers. I think he played a Cyndi Lauper song.
Oh, wow. Time After Time?
He might have, yeah, that might have been it. I don't remember exactly. I remember he played Tutu and a lot of not really old stuff. He played more recent contemporary stuff, but it was just an amazing show. And he just lit up the room, and everybody enjoyed it, and it was an amazing feeling. And that's really, when you talk about going and enjoying a show, that was a feeling. That set the bar as to what a show should feel like.
I got a cool Carolina theater show. Stanley Jordan in the early 90s. I can't recall exactly when it was, but the coolest thing was the power went out.
Oh no.
Like midway through the show. And the emergency lights came on, and they smartly, they had emergency lights above the stage so you could actually still see the stage somewhat dimly. And that's smart. So if anybody's on stage, they don't fall off the stage trying to, exit or whatever. But anyway, he waited a few minutes and somebody came out and said something to him. He says, looks like they're having problems. And he goes, let me try something. And so he had no amplification at all. And he starts playing. And everybody literally STUF, they just were trying to hear. And that theater's designed so well, you could actually, there's no amplification. He's playing electric guitar, but you could hear every note he was playing. He was probably playing a little harder than normal, but he played like 3 songs without any power.
Wow,
and it was just so freaking cool because everybody was in on it. Everybody shut up. Like it wasn't. I can only imagine something like that happen now. And there's going to be people that just aren't with the program, But everybody was there to see him, and they were a fan, and everybody got the message and they followed it, And it was just like you could literally hear a pin drop because you had to hear a pin drop, It's just the way his technique is.
Right.
But that's one of my favorite Carolina theater memories. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that this reminds me of something that I said to someone somewhat recently. You have to be able to read the room. Now, in that situation, it was kind of like no choice.
Yeah.
You either play or you have a choice of playing or not playing. He did what he could. And it sounds like people really appreciated the effort. And it was that's a really cool story.
Yeah.
I bet he never forgot playing that place.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
But like if you, I had someone tell me fairly recently that, they went into a bar, they had a gig, and no names, but there wasn't very many people in there. So they were going to do their typical set, and whoever the staff was like, "Oh, you're too loud. You're too loud. You got to shut down." And I think I remember saying to this person, I was like, "Well, did you guys think about maybe modifying your set? Kind of, and it's not like you just bring an acoustic guitar with you, but you have to kind of modify things. You have to be able to read the room. If there's only 5 people in there, you might not just do your typical set. You might have to, okay, what other songs do we know?" And this person explained to me that they're not set up to do that. And I thought, well, it's not a judgment on my part. I thought, well, I think I would have to be able to do that in a band.
Yeah.
I need to have the freedom to do that. it's like I play music wherever I'm at, and when in a work situation, I try to, and I get away with it most of the time. People put up with my obnoxiousness most of the time, and but still, I don't try to. I'm not going to play certain things that I know people aren't going to be receptive to. I try to think about, okay, what's the mood here tonight
Yeah,
Yeah.
or
yeah.
today? Let me play something that might be kind of cool. And I have a lot of music, access, so we could play anything we want. But there's a certain amount of that, I think, with being in a band. You have to be able to, unless you're at a certain status where it's just you can't change your set very easily. But I don't think it would be fun for me to not have the freedom to change things up given the right opportunity.
Yeah, now with
Um,
clicks and light shows and stuff like that,
right,
just so
right, right.
keyed into the
Oh yeah, if you got a big production, it's just
yeah,
not
there's
you
no way,
can't
yeah.
easily do it. But a bar band,
Yeah, oh yeah, they should be
hopefully
able to
you
adapt, yeah.
hopefully you have the ability to say, okay, well, let's just take it down a notch and here's a few songs we have in our back pocket that might be kind of cool to play
Well,
right
I've
now.
played in a few smaller places where the if I played my normal playing, it was far too loud. Even, it was drowning
Right,
out the vocals, and it was just the acoustics of the room,
right, right.
and I said, "I've literally gotta just pull it back 4 or 5 notches, and just barely hit the cymbals, not just a full like, if there's an open room, because a lot sometimes we would play at a place, it was just, literally an open bar, and 3 sides were open to the air.
Well,
And so, you can bash away there because the sound is just going. But when you're in a small, tiny place and all you're hearing is the bombast of the drums,
right.
nobody wants to hear that. I don't even want to hear that.
Well, you have to have everybody on the same page in a band.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, I mean, everybody has to sort of like, okay, I think I agree with what you're saying,
Well, I was
and
just thinking also, right, the correlation to what happened with the Who here recently,
oh
and
yeah,
I was
yeah,
like,
yeah.
how did he not just turn around and say, "Don't play so loud"? I don't understand why they are firing him. I don't. It's got to be more than just that.
Yeah, we're talking about Zach Starkey, Richard Ringo Starr's son. Fantastic drummer. Both
Mhm.
of these. Zach Starkey was really the perfect drummer for
Yeah, for the Who.
the Who after, Keith Moon. I mean, phenomenal. And was with him for 29 years, I believe I read.
Yeah, Kenny Jones
Um,
played for a while, but he wasn't the same style as
No, not
Keith
at all.
completely
at all.
different. I enjoyed what Kenny Jones did, but
Hmm.
yeah, Zach Starkey is a
Yeah,
fantastic drummer,
yeah.
and he will be just fine. But
Oh yeah, yeah,
yeah, it's a shame that the relationships feelings get hurt, and
yeah. I don't. I
but
just don't. It's
I think what it comes down to is Roger Daughtry is here. He's 81 years old. He's
yes,
losing
hearing
his hearing,
and his sight too, from what I understand.
and
So
I guess he's just getting a little bit more finicky as he gets older, and maybe you know I don't know. Who knows what all the dynamics in that relationship are? But
well, the drums are a pretty big part of the Who's sound.
it
So
is, yeah, yeah, for
you're gonna
sure.
have to have somebody smashing away back there to get the
Mhm.
same feel as their original drummer. So I mean, yeah,
Well,
you can put up I mean not air walls, but you can put up the drummer shield or
Yeah.
whatever. You could do you got earbuds, I mean not earbuds, but in-ear monitors. You can turn the drums off from the mix. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
yeah.
I just didn't make sense to me. It's like he played too loud. I couldn't hear what key the song was in. I'm like, "Oh, that doesn't make sense, Roger."
Well, I don't even know I don't know that the band has put out an official statement. So I don't know.
Yeah, the quotes I saw from Roger, that's what a couple of things he was saying he couldn't hear.
No, I saw the
Yeah.
video.
Oh,
I saw
okay.
the video of
Yeah.
the performance.
Yeah.
The song is over was the song that they were playing,
Mm.
which is one of my favorite Who songs. And I understood what he was saying, but I think he probably just getting, you know, a
Yeah.
little, you know, like I said, finicky and crusty in his older age.
I
He
just
probably
wondered.
couldn't hear, but
I didn't see the
he
video. Was it in a smaller room or was it in a
no,
big venue?
it was Royal
Oh,
Albert Hall.
well, okay, so
Yeah, yeah. However
there's
many
room
seats
for
are
the
there, but
yeah,
it didn't look like it was a very I mean, I love The Who. I mean, I'm a big fan of The Who. I don't think that that would be a really fun show to go see. I mean, for being 80 years old, they're both doing great,
yeah.
but I don't think that I'd be interested in seeing that. unless I just wanted to be say I saw these guys before they died.
Yeah.
And I have nothing but respect for Roger Daughtry and Pete Townsend. I mean, I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan of the Who, but I don't think it would be enjoyable for me. But
Yeah. We
maybe it
saw him
would
at
be. Maybe if I went with no expectations, it would be one of the best experiences I ever had.
what year they
Yeah.
played Carter Finley?
Yeah, I was
I
89.
can't. Okay. Yeah. I couldn't remember when it was. That was around
Tommy
the,
tour.
yeah.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy anything about that period of time. I love Simon Phillips as a drummer, but I did not enjoy him in the band. It didn't work for me.
Yeah. I
And
didn't
I'm
think
not a
so.
drummer, but it just didn't feel right to me.
I agree. He's too refined.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound
He's
good to
perfect
me.
for Toto, but not the Who.
I didn't even like him with Toto.
Yeah.
I mean, I always sound like I'm putting him down, but it just doesn't work for me.
Well, let me say,
Um,
I thought he fit better for Toto
Oh,
than
he fit better
did
for
for the
sure.
Who. Yeah.
All right, we probably should put this one to rest. So
We're just
we-
rambling now.
we're rambling and we're talking about all kinds of things, but we appreciate you guys checking in with us, and we will see you all next week with a new episode. Take it easy, everybody.
All right. Be well.
Mr. Miyagi, my knee hurting.